This is a Central Line train to West London.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a good service operating all line.
Exponential technology is changing the way we live, work, and play. But the human mind does not deal with exponential thinking very well. We are seemingly on the first step of a staircase that promises to carry us into an unknown future that many of us are simply not prepared for. So to understand the current state of the world's most powerful exponential technology, I have traveled to London Tech Week to meet up with some of the world's leading technologists and thought leaders to help you understand the implications of these technologies on your world. My name is Matt Brown, and this is The State of X.
This is the biggest and most ambitious festival of technology this country has ever seen.
Everyone communicates. Communicating with others gives us connection, control, and ultimately meaning in our lives. A key factor to successful communication is language. Language gives us the means and ways to share our own thoughts and ideas, desires and wishes. As human beings, we are a remarkably gregarious species and thrive when we can exchange information and experiences. But unfortunately, there are limitations to how much we can communicate and collaborate with others, especially when we don't all speak the same language. I spoke with Burr, the research director of Duolingo, a revolutionary application with over 200 million users. Hey guys, welcome back to State of X on Prime. I'm hugely privileged and honored to have with me Burr, the research director at Duolingo. How's it, buddy?
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I'm really thrilled to have you guys here specifically because I came across the founder of Duolingo, Louis' TED Talk many years ago, and the story was just fascinating, you know, having invented the captcha for the internet and how that whole thing has now led to the current form of Duolingo. So, you know, fast forward to today, what do we need to know about Duolingo?
So Duolingo right now is the largest language learning platform in the world. There are hundreds of millions of people who are learning languages on Duolingo, everything from English and Spanish to Swahili and Irish.
Really? Are there lots of African languages on there as well?
So far, Swahili is the only continental language. We're launching Arabic a bit later this year.
Wow. And you got 300 million users apparently, something like that?
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about AI. I mean, obviously we're here at London Tech Week. How are you guys using AI in the context of such a huge user base, all trying to learn languages? Okay. Why AI, and what's the play there? For you
Yeah,
guys?
it's not an obvious connection
exactly. It's
necessarily, but if you think about it, we like to talk about education as being something that tears down barriers and gives people more access to opportunity, but in reality, the people with the most money afford the best education, and it just propagates the problem. And we believe that AI is probably the best way to scale until everybody has access to a great one-on-one tutor on a subject. AI enables us to scale it to everybody. So a good tutor has like three properties. They know the content really well. They know how to engage you with that content, and they have a way of getting inside your head and understanding what you know and what you don't know and how well you know it and when you're likely to forget it so that they can, quiz you and drill you.
Yep.
So we use AI for those three things, to build tools to help us build high quality content, and then also to monitor the exercises you get right, what you get wrong, and build mental models of what you know so that we can personalize your learning experience.
Yeah, it's interesting that because, we all learn different things, different ways. I don't know whether you're familiar with kinesthetic and visual and auditory and et cetera, olfactory, the people, I know that's not exactly how you would learn unless you're in the cooking space, but point being is that we all learn differently. So is your intention essentially to, as you said, to build like a mental map of an individual user of those 300 million and say, right, this is how you best learn a language? And in the process of doing that, speed up the learning process? Is that kind of what you're trying to do?
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter if you're, like in South Africa, 20% of Duolingo users are learning French.
Why?
So some
though?
people,
What the
for some
hell?
reason,
What have
it's
you
a
done to
very
us?
popular language. But it doesn't matter if you started, if you're just starting with French or if you took French in high school, you're going to have a different starting point. If you already learned Spanish or something, then French might be easier. So we're able, based on your response patterns, to pick up on that and tailor the experience directly to you.
Are you also able to move people into, say, alternative language that are potentially not their primary focus? So, for instance, South Africans mainly learning French, and then through their modalities and the data essentially that you have, is your intention also to try and nudge them towards consuming and learning about other languages as well, like Spanish?
That's certainly something that we could do in the future.
Okay, cool. Tell me something. What does the future of AI in education look like? It's a big question.
Yeah.
But out of all educators at scale using AI, you're probably the best guy to ask, right? So what does it look like? Is AI going to be, a true enabler of education at scale? Or what do we need to know? What's your view?
I believe so. I mean, there's a lot of fear, I think, about AI replacing teachers, and I don't think
that's the thing.
going to happen at all.
Yeah.
In fact, there are hundreds of thousands of classrooms across the world using Duolingo. And
you
in
mean
fact,
actually in the classroom?
Yeah, in the they have classroom exercises
Really?
built around. We also have a Duolingo for Schools platform that we built to help support
Oh, really?
educators in this way.
Amazing.
But also there are thousands of schools in the United States, for example, with no foreign language programs. So in the more rural areas where there's less access, we have students learning enough Italian that once they go off to university, have learned enough to test into third or fourth semester and save thousands of dollars in tuition. So these are the kinds of things that I think AI and technology at scale will enable education, not just in language learning space, but everywhere.
So an interesting stat I came across literally last week was that in Africa, everybody now has a mobile phone, like a smartphone type thing. Maybe not a smartphone, but at least we're getting there. Whereas before it wasn't. In other words, what I'm trying to get to is it was access to the internet. Like they had shitty dumb phones, right? Mm-hmm. But they didn't have internet-enabled phones. And that's really powerful in the context of what you guys are doing and the emerging market of Africa, right? How do you see your role as an educator in emerging markets specifically?
I haven't given that particular question much thought. I mean, I know about 1 in every 2 people worldwide has some access to the internet. And I've been to Haiti, for example, and volunteer mission trips and met people in a remote village that have no electricity or running water, but they do get data signals and they have phones. And I've met people who have been learning English through Duolingo in these very remote areas. So it makes me very pleased and proud to play a small role in that kind of.
Sure. So you mentioned educators, right? We've got a client, Eiffel Corp. They're one of the largest ed tech companies in Africa, and so we do a lot of work in the ed tech space. There's a huge focus on enabling teachers to upskill themselves as it relates to digital education. What are your words of advice to educators around the world as it relates to a proposition like Duolingo?
So in terms of using Duolingo in teaching or to better themselves, because that also happens.
But it's both, right? It's about the upskilling of yourself as an educator, right? Because that's kind of what you guys are augmenting. So because as a teacher, if I've got 50 students, I want to know that little Jimmy over there learns like this. Mm-hmm. He's a bit dyslexic, so he learns like that. You know what I mean? You're working with a particular model of a child and then educating them. And that's what you're kind of solving at scale. But as an educator, looking at an opportunity or a platform like Duolingo, how should they get involved? How should they see Duolingo as a partner, for instance?
So if you're a language educator, I would say look at Duolingo for Schools, schools.duolingo.com. We have dashboards. Educators can create targeted lessons and assignments for their students. And in the future, I would like to see us take some of the AI that we've built, those mental models of what's in your head, and augment those dashboards with more information. This particular student is struggling with past tense conjugations. This student is struggling with something else. So it actually enables the teacher to get more insight into If you're a one-on-one tutor, you have enough experience with an individual student to get that kind of insight. If you have a classroom of 35 people,
It's much harder.
so the AI can actually augment you and level up,
Make
give
you a
you
better
more of a
educator, right?
window into what each student needs.
Great, fantastic. So you're going to have all this data from all over the world. What are you going to do with it?
So we're using it in our own research. We also, within the past 3 years or so, our AI team has published 5 peer-reviewed research articles. And we've also released 2 large-scale research data sets with millions of examples of students doing exercises, what they got right, what they got wrong. And that has enabled more academics and industry people to analyze those data sets, publish more papers, and we very much believe in helping move the field forward, because there's actually not a whole lot of work in AI for education at scale. So it's our hope that we can help further that.
Very interesting. Burr, let's wrap this up. Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? Well, the academic in me loves machine learning, language, and cognitive science, and there's probably, you can count on one hand the number of companies where you can have a job that works in that intersection. And it's a big bonus that it's a company that can have so much impact throughout the world.
Burr, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cheers, mate. Okay, so we're going to talk about X in this case, which is AI in the enterprise.
Sure.
What is the general attitude and mindset towards AI? Are enterprise clients in your portfolio, are they open to working with AI, or are they still quite ambivalent about it? Like, how far down the garden path are we in that regard?